Hi guys, welcome back. We were just talking about how divorce affects childhood and growing up, but let's talk about how it affects relationships as they're growing up as children.
Yeah, I think it really does, because they're learning how to live two different lives. Like maybe they might be just with a single mother or just with a single father, but so what about the ones that are experiencing living with their mom and then going to visit their dad, you know? And it's like seeing different love, like, and what if they're dating? You know, the parents are dating, you know, and they're seeing two different love lives. Like, doesn't that affect how they're gonna view love and relationships in the future? Like, it's okay. Like, do they think it's okay, or do they maybe cling to somebody instead? I don't know. I've seen it in both ways.
Yeah. Well, like I said, my parents, they got divorced, and I know I had to travel far because they actually, we lived in Texas, but then my mom remarried and we moved to Pennsylvania. So I constantly, and I noticed my dad was dating, but my mom got remarried like within a couple years. Yeah. So I definitely did see two different levels of love. And to me, it was kind of not really confusion. I just didn't know that there was more to love. You know what I mean? So like, is that?
Well, all right. So when my mom packed up and left for 8 months, like my parents are married and they're happily that way for the last so and so years. Yeah. But during that 8 months, I had one time contact with my mom. Yeah. Wow. One time in 8 months, and she came by the house while my dad was there, and was just like, "Hey, I want to take the kids for a drive." And so we all get in the the minivan, the man van is what I called it in high school, but we get into the van and she takes us for a drive, and she's just explaining to us, "Hey, this isn't your guys' fault. This isn't anything that you guys did or anything you guys said. I still love you."
Did it feel like your fault though?
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like watching my dad go through what he went through with my mom, and I still love my mom to death. Yeah. Like I would do anything for my mother, but during that time I could not have thought anything less of her during that time. And growing up with one parent was terrible.
Yeah, do you guys think though, like, because I'm from a home that my parents were together, so I've experienced like that kind of relationship. So do you feel for yourselves that you view love differently? How do you view it, like your relationship?
I was raised for most of my life with a single mother, and so honestly, like just being completely honest, I sought approval because I didn't have a dad. I sought approval from men, from everybody. So it's a completely different outlook on love, you know. And slowly, like as I got older and learning myself and realizing, okay, it's not my fault. You know, it changes, but as a kid, it messes you up.
Well, on the other hand of that, I mainly lived with my mom while they were split, and I just stayed with her, and actually, instead of seeking relationships with others, it actually taught me how to respect a woman. Just because I was learning from my mom, I learned a lot. So in a way, it was kind of a good thing for me.
Just to switch things up just a little bit though, I don't know, the story of Hosea in the Bible and how, you know, what if someone is unfaithful? It does say in the Bible that you can divorce if your spouse is unfaithful. And in the story of Hosea, his wife is unfaithful to him. How do we deal with that? Do you think you can stay together and stick it through? Because I have, people that I know that have stuck it through, and some that divorced,
I give props to Hosea, because honestly, I do not think I could do that.
Yeah, she kept leaving him.
There's no way. I mean, I feel, and I've heard a lot of stories where something like that's happened and God has worked through their life, and I think that's incredible. And I just know personally, I don't know how I would do it. Like if someone cheated on me.
Yeah, to me, once that trust is broken,
it's gone.
Almost impossible.
And maybe that's a weakness on my point. You know what I mean? Maybe I should be stronger, but I could not trust them again.
Yeah, but I mean, think about it. That's kind of how we are sometimes with God. Like if we're unfaithful to God, and that's I think that's kind of moves into like how God views us and our relationship with him, like through Jesus Christ. He considers it a marriage. You know, he holds marriage up to such a high standard, you know? So, I mean, what do you guys think about that? How the sanctity of marriage, because he holds it to such a high standard, and how come we don't see it that way?
Well, he says, it talks about how the marriage is a covenant, and if we kind of look how faithful God is, and just his covenant, and even the covenant that Jesus Christ made through dying on the cross, how faithful he's still constantly faithful, even though we still continue to mess up. I think it's one of the most beautiful portraits of faithfulness and in that covenant of marriage.
And also, like, I was talking with Candace earlier today, and I was just expressing to her, I was like, I don't understand how you can just not love somebody. Because my definition of love is not an action, but it's a motivation. It's an attitude that is intentional towards something.
You're
And when
working towards it.
Right,
yeah.
and so when you're working towards something, you're constantly developing. And even when it messes up, even when you fail, even when they fail, you know that there's still hope because 1 Corinthians 13, love always has hope. Love never keeps record of wrongs. It never.
That's a good point.
It's not self-seeking, and at
It's
the end
not
of the day,
self-seeking.
it's selfish, and that's why we're selfish because we just follow our feelings.
The definition
all
of
the
divorce
time.
is a selfish act.
But let's think of it this way though. What about in the situation of abuse? Because like my grandmother growing up, she was abused, and she was in a household where she had to leave for the safety of my mother.
Right.
I think that's
and
completely
so
justifiable.
I think it's justified too. I mean,
If the person that's being the abuser
Right.
doesn't want to fix it, or they're threatening the person, of course, God wants you to get out of that situation.
Like, and especially if there's kids, who would let their child stay in a situation where they
Right.
could be in physical harm? Like that, it's
but the
completely
Bible doesn't
justifiable.
address it though. And so even though like we think this is right, I mean,
maybe, this is the unequally yoked thing. Maybe before they married them, they didn't look at who the person really was or their values and their beliefs.
Yeah.
Usually that person that's an abuser has these characteristics of themselves. So what do you guys feel about the unequally yoked thing? It doesn't mean just not being a Christian, but maybe they are a Christian and believe the same thing you do, believe in God and Jesus Christ, but they don't have the same values. And
Statistically,
Yeah.
the girl who ends up with the abusive guy or the guy who ends up with the abusive girl, it goes both ways.
Yeah.
But for in the relationship of abuse, that when you get out of that relationship and you leave that relationship, let's say you leave it before marriage, your chances let's say that was your only relationship, the chances of you getting into a different relationship with a different guy are less likely because that's what you know. That's what you recognize.
Yeah.
And so statistically,
or you go back to the same type of person.
exactly, and that was the point that I was trying to make across, was that like you keep coming back to what you know, because going outside of that is scary.
Yeah.
Like you don't know if the nicest guy in the world is gonna all of a sudden turn on you and, oh my gosh, this is not what I thought it was.
Yeah. I want to bring up a point real quick, and this is something that's been in the news lately, but people have been saying if you grow old with someone and they have Alzheimer's, at the end, once they're getting old, it's okay that you divorce them because it's pretty much like they're dead.
That's ridiculous.
Can you believe that? I mean, I think it's ridiculous, but how can people justify that it's okay once someone is sick like that?
Because
that
they
you
don't
can
remember?
leave them?
Is that why? Like, it's ridiculous.
Right. I feel like that's the time that they would need you the most.
That's-
Like,
But
they
at
would
the
need you to
same
be with
time,
them.
you don't want to judge those people because none of us are in that
Oh,
position,
yeah.
and we have no idea how hard it is. I'm not justifying it at all. I'm just saying we can't really judge them because we don't know.
Well, I think it's one of the perfect times to even display love and show love is by showing them more than the feeling. It's kind of like the whole concept that love isn't something that you it's not something you get, but it's something you give.
Right.
That's true. It's like showing your most selfless
Right.
act, because they don't even,
yeah.
maybe they might not even remember you, and the fact that you still are putting forth that effort and taking care of them really shows how selfless you
It's
are.
like The Notebook, the movie.
Yeah.
He stayed true to her till the end.
Until the end and the last scene.
And we all love the movie.
Yeah. Really
It was
good.
okay.
Well, guys, that was really good, and
Yeah.
I mean that's all we have for today. So thanks, guys, for watching.